everybody, welcome to DIY the show. My name is Andrew Lowry. DIY the show is the public act show. We talk about DIY ethics, morals, ideas, and how they relate to your real, actual life. So each week, me, Andrew Lowry, I sit down with a couple of guests, and we talk about why they choose to do it themselves and why it's better than everything else. So without further ado, I want to welcome you all to DIY!
It's time for DIY.
Let's end it. End it. Just fucking end it. Hey, whoop-de-doop-de-doo. Hey, everybody, my name's Andy Lowry. I'm the fabulous host of DIY the show. We're coming to you full cylinders here, all 8 cylinders in this ride. There's a V8 engine on this show. That's as much as I know about cars. But either way, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, I'm Andy, the host. We're here on the show. I'm so glad to have you all back. We've been off for a few weeks. It's so nice to be back here in the studio with the green screen and all this chaos and craziness. Off the top, I want to thank our good buddy Oscar for playing me in. Oscar, thanks as always. Fucking killed it.
Right.
Definitely killed it on that intro.
That's what I did there.
That's what you did there. How you doing, bud? It's good to see you.
I'm alright. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So
Cool.
Today's topic is actually podcasts today. We're talking about podcasting. So I want to ask you, Oscar, you listen to any podcasts? Any podcasts you enjoy?
There's you know Crack.com?
Yeah, I love Cracked.
Before it was decimated and all their
R.I.P.
talent left. Well, the guy who left before that, he has a podcast. And I check that out on the occasional.
Nice.
I forget his name, Mark something.
Yeah, Cracked podcast. That's a
yeah.
good one. I'm not a huge podcast guy. I mean, DIY used to be a podcast. You can always check out our website and see a whole backlog. I have like 60 episodes of me talking to random bands and different people doing stuff like this. But yeah, I mean, podcasting's really interesting to me. I think we try to be a visual podcast here on the show. I think that's what we try to bring to you. But yeah, Oscar, thanks again. Thanks as always for playing us in. Also on the show with me, our panel is full of experts and amazing people. She's my girlfriend, the love of my life. She's sitting right next to me. She's got a beautiful wig on today. Her name is Amanda Brack. Amanda, let's hear it for Amanda, everybody. Welcome. How are you today, Amanda? How are we?
I'm swell. How are you?
Swell. S-W-E-L-L. I'm doing great. I'm feeling really manic today. I'm feeling like I haven't done this in a bit, so I'm really happy to be back in here hanging out. So what's new with you? How have you been?
Been good.
Yeah, so we're talking about podcasts. Do you listen to any podcasts?
I don't technically listen to podcasts, but I listen to a lot of horror stories on YouTube.
That's fair.
People just reading horror stories. So does that count?
I think that counts because you're sort of still telling a story. You're still able to listen to this sort of long form, interesting thing. Now you're always doing art for us, drawing for us. You're working on a piece right now. What is this, and what would you say you're working on?
It's just a personal piece I've been working on all summer, trying to get it finished before the fall comes.
Yeah. What's the deal with this guy? He's hanging out in the cactuses there.
It is exactly what it seems to be. Just a guy hanging out with weird, huge cactuses.
So we'll keep an eye on your continuous progress throughout the show, and I can't wait to see the finished product.
Cool
beans. Cool beans. And lastly, he's the king of everything. He's the patriotic kabuki warrior. He's the video game master. You know him, you love him. His name is Carby. Let's hear it for Carby in the studio, everybody. Carby, how you been, buddy? Long time no see.
Yeah, psyched to be back beyond belief. Yeah, been some downsides, but trying to avoid them like one thunderstorm earlier this week.
Understood. So you're playing some games today. Now, I think it's amazing. Carbia, for the long time I've known you, you've always said, next gen, I'm staying away from that. I keep with my 16, 18-bit stuff. That's what I enjoy. Now we're going on a PS2. What are we playing on PS2 now?
Oh, this is Final Fantasy X, circa 2001 or 2.
Very cool.
I replaced this just early this month. I also got Tekken 2, Tekken 3, and various others.
Nice. I love me some Final Fantasy. I played like 7 for like an hour. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm lying to you. I'm lying to to you guys. I don't really enjoy Final Fantasy. I've never played it. Maybe I might enjoy it. I like RPGs. I like stuff like that. So maybe I might like it. Who knows?
Yeah, it can be very time consuming, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Fallout 4. That's it. That's all I do all day. Ask Amanda.
And while we're on the subject of podcasting, right? That's our topic, right?
Yeah.
I'm part of Geek Beat Radio.
Oh yeah, Geek Beat Radio is a great podcasting network here in Boston. They talk about all things pop culture, all things video games.
Yeah, shout out to Rob Carballo.
Shout out to everybody there.
Facepalm Doherty.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Carby, you gonna keep playing video games all day for us?
Without the shadow of a doubt. I mean, I'll switch him up if need be.
Switch him up. Hopefully, Carby won't run away on us to go fight crime because he is the kabuki patriotic warrior. He's Captain America times 10.
Move over Scott O'Connor.
Yeah, I've seen Carby break through a wall physically punch through a wall. So that's the kind of stuff we bring you here on DIY. Either way, I'm having lots of fun here on the show. I'm really excited to talk with my guests today. Alongside me, I have Eddie and Ellie, both podcaster hosts, and they're going to talk a little bit more about what they do. We have plenty of awesome videos for you today. But the first thing I always like getting in on the show, we got to get the live band in the studio. So today we have Otter River in the studio. They're nice enough to perform for us. So without further ado, I want to give everybody some nice fucking tunes. So let's hear it for Otter River in the studio, everybody. Yeah!
Hello. Thank you. It's a song called And Preston Presses On. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Otter River in the studio. Thank you so much for playing for us. We got more performance from them a little bit later in the show. But right now, we got to get into the topic. We got to start talking about what we told you we'd be talking about. Today, we are talking about podcasting. So, podcasting is very interesting to me. There's all different ways to go about it. There's so many fucking podcasts out there. It feels like everybody I knew stopped being in bands, started making podcasts. So, tell me about yours in the Facebook comments below. Either way, I want to introduce you to my first guest. In the studio with me right now, I have Ellie. Ellie, I did not ask you how to pronounce your last name before, so I don't want to butcher it.
It's okay. Ellie Brigida. Nobody
Brigida,
can ever do
Brigida.
it, so I appreciate you
Perfect.
not trying.
I don't even try. That's what I've learned on the
Storm
show.
my
So,
life.
Ellie, thank you so much for coming in. I'm so happy to have you. Now, tell our viewers here a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about your podcast.
Great. My name is Ellie Brigida. It's funny that you say all your friends are in bands in the new podcast. I'm a musician, a singer, and also do a podcast.
Hey, there you go.
Yep, it's classic. And my podcast is called Les Hangout.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about Les Hangout. What's the sort of theme? What sort of ideas do you guys explore?
Yes, so we are a lesbian podcast,
Nice.
hence the Les
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
title.
We love puns here. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have a fun name too.
You have to.
I get
You
it.
have
I get
to.
it. Yeah.
We talk about lesbian media, so
Yeah.
like lesbian TV, movies, and like life and love and all that kind of stuff.
That's
But
cool.
majority of it is through the lens of lesbian media.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, you guys are offering a unique perspective on just pop culture in general. You know what I mean? You're looking at it through that lens. You know, the same way here, we're looking at everything like, how could you do it yourself? How could we figure out how to do it? You're trying to look at that angle. So that, I think, is really interesting, really cool. And
Yeah.
I'm really happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
So how long have you been podcasting, and how did you sort of get started in it?
Yeah, so I've only been podcasting for about a year.
Okay.
I love it.
Yes.
But I actually do a podcast with my co-host. She lives in San Francisco.
So you guys are remote?
We do everything on
Wow.
Skype.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really interesting, because I think that's sort of the beauty of like modern like content, like trying to create modern content is like half of this show is remote. You know, everybody just meets here on a Saturday to get things done, but I bring in videos from people from all over the place. And,
Yeah.
and I think that you're using the internet to your advantage. That's
Exactly.
really awesome.
Yeah.
So you and your co-host, how did you two sort of meet?
So we met in the San Francisco area.
Okay.
I did a lot of a cappella music.
Nice.
So we were at an a cappella conference.
Yeah.
We met and we immediately started talking about lesbian movies, TV, all that kind
Nice.
of stuff. We were talking about it for years, and then we were like, we should probably like record this somewhere.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
needs to be out in the world.
So what sort of progress did you go through with your podcast? Like, what are some of the like foundations you sort of built as you guys went along?
Yeah, I mean, it starts as an idea, right?
Yeah,
We like
yeah.
had a really long phone conversation where we were like, we need to do this. I mean, and then you have to actually make it happen. So
Yeah.
then we put some outlines together of what we would want our episodes to be,
Yeah.
some of the segments. We have this segment called Should Have Been Gay, which is one of my favorites, where we talk about movies that are straight that should have been gay.
Yeah.
And we like talked about that before we even started the podcast.
See, that's great.
And then we had to record, obviously.
So what's one of like the big deciding what do you think is the number one movie that should have been gay?
That is a really hard question, but oh my god. Okay.
Give me a couple.
I'm gonna give you a few.
Okay.
But Bring It On was one of my favorites.
Fair.
Because
that could be. Yeah.
Missy and Torrance, just like get rid of the brother.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
it.
for sure.
And Bend It Like Beckham, which is just
Okay.
like too obvious.
Yeah,
Because
no,
Keira
that's for
Knightley
sure.
just like
Yeah.
is gay in that movie.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's good. Those are some good ones.
Yeah.
If you have any movies you think should be gay, let us know in the Facebook
Yeah.
chat.
Yes.
Ellie,
Look
we'll
at
talk
you
about
like
it.
to adventure of two
So
girls in
any
love.
movies out there,
Yes.
you know, I feel like Citizen Kane should have been gay. I feel like maybe Apocalypse Now.
Yep.
That whole Colonel Kurtz going down the river. That's a gay romance if I've ever heard of one.
Honestly, yeah. It's easy. It's just too easy.
It is
It's like
pretty
every
easy.
movie, really.
It is pretty easy.
Yeah.
Now, so that's easy, but I know podcasting, you know, anything creative you do, you run into obstacles. Now, what are some of the obstacles you sort of hit along the way? I mean, I'm sure your co-host being on the other side of the country is one of
Yes.
those. Is there any others?
I feel like time is the biggest obstacle of just being like, how do you make time
Yeah.
to actually sit down and do the thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Right.
so difficult. I mean, the whole idea with this is it's only for like 5 hours on a Saturday, maybe twice a month. And yeah, it takes so much time because you're not only just saying the words, you're editing the words, you're promoting
Yes.
the words, you're having to do all that. So is there any sort of tricks you found along the way to make that sort of a little easier?
Well, I think it's just consistency. We set aside time every single Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's like we do it every Wednesday and prep work. So we didn't end up releasing our first season. I
Yeah.
think we started recording episodes probably like 4 or 5 months before.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like we wanted to make sure we have stuff ready.
Yeah.
And then once the season was up and running, then
Yeah.
every single week we were recording a new episode, trying to stay ahead of it.
Trying, yeah.
But like, of course,
I mean, that's
things
the most
happen.
difficult part. I mean, I think one of the hardest things right now is when you're putting out content is feeding the beast. You know what I mean? If you're not creating content consistently and promoting it as loudly as you can, you sort of like fall to the back. Is there any sort of things that you've done to sort of keep ahead of it?
I think for us, it's social media is super helpful.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah.
We're on Facebook.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but also really exciting. Like you said, like you can connect to people all over. With the internet.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's hard, I think, to find those people, but with podcasting, what I love is like it's such a specific niche.
Yes.
That it's like, okay, we know exactly what people we're targeting.
Yeah.
So like let's just go find them.
Go on sexual preference on Facebook
and
ads.
just it's like super targeted.
That's cool. That's crazy. I mean, I think that's really the interesting thing for me with everybody who's creating content now is that it's sort of becoming this niche world where anybody can find a voice that connects to themselves. Now, do you, doing a lesbian-specific podcast, do you have people sort of reach out to you saying, like, this really connects to me and things like that?
Oh, yeah, for sure, which is, like, the best part about it. Yeah, we have, we're, like, people will, like, message me on Instagram and stuff like that, and
great.
just be, like, people have, like, come out because of listening to it, or maybe they live in the middle of nowhere, and they have, like, no lesbian friends.
Yeah, there's no representation.
And they're like,
I think...
It's amazing. I love it.
See, and that's the key. I mean, for all of us growing up, it's like the TV shows we watched and the media we enjoyed, it felt like that was part of your club. Like, I don't know about you, but I was raised by a television, and this is what turns out. This is what a television produces. Hence living in the internet. But I think that, the media we watch influences us over time, and I think it's hard for people when there's no representation for themselves. So I think that's what you're providing, and that's awesome.
Thank you.
So now, talking about your podcast, you have your new season starting soon.
Yes.
So when exactly does that start?
Season 2 comes out September 3rd.
September 3rd. Nice.
Yes.
Solid date.
Yeah, we have, it's like, Labor Day weekend, I guess, that Monday. And we have 3 episodes that are going to come out at the beginning of the season, and then every week from then till June.
Cool.
I think another thing that really helped us was that we took a break.
Yes.
We did season 1, and then we took a few months break, prep for season 2, and now we're doing season 2.
Real life tip right here, 3-month cycle. That's how everything works. 3-month cycle. 3 months on, 3 months off, 3 months on. You got to be producing something every other month. That's big and flashy. Whatever. This is some like Game of Thrones, like chest moving kind of thoughts we all have. You have those, right, internet? So whatever. But Ellie, thank you so much. So where can we find your podcast online? Where can we find out more about that?
Yeah, we are at Les Hangout Pod on all of our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And you can find us on iTunes or anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
Nice. I need to figure out how to get on iTunes. But Ellie, thank you so much. We'll be talking to you a little bit later in the show. But I do have to go to a video right now.
It's okay.
So the video we're going to right now, he was on last episode. It wasn't last week. Last episode, Alex Keown. He was an animator. He gave me a bunch of his animations on the way out last week. So we're going to play one of those. This is called Signs of Love. Oscar, you want to play some music? We're going to go to the break right now. We're going to break. This is going to break. This is the wheel of breaking. Are we there?
It's time for DIY.
Hey everybody, welcome back to DIY the show. Oscar's fucking ripping shit up today. Fucking love it.
Move over, Yoshimitsu.
Welcome back to DIY the show. This week we're talking about podcasting. Hope you're all watching in the internet live right now. If you are, let us know you are, because that just makes me feel validated, because I'm just yelling into a computer screen or yelling through, whatever. You understand how computers work. I don't. But either way, we're back here talking about podcasting. I got my second guest with me. So happy to have him. We actually went to school together. I've known this guy for a while. I mean, maybe not, closely known each other, but we know each other well. Let's hear it for Eddie McCabe in the studio, everybody!
Oh, hello, McCabe!
So Eddie, how are we? How are you doing?
Doing great. I'm super happy to be here.
Me too.
I've been watching this show for a while.
Oh, have you?
So I check in every now and then.
Nice.
I can't say I watch every episode, but I check in.
We got clips. We put out the
and
content.
I love everything that's going on here, so I'm really excited to be on this show.
Thank you. So Eddie, you run a podcast called New Age Insiders.
Yes.
Now tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about your podcast.
So in real life, I am a freelance television and film producer.
Yep.
So produced mostly corporate content and commercial content for a variety of clients.
Cool.
So that's what I do. And then by night, I don the cape, and I am one of the co-owners of New Age Insiders LLC,
Nice.
which is New Age Insiders Entertainment, which is the parent company of my podcast, the New Age Insiders Wrestling Show, along with everything else.
Yeah.
We have so many shows under our umbrella. And on that show, I go by Liam Stryker.
Cool.
And I have a stage name because when we started this show, it's a pro wrestling podcast.
Okay.
And I was in the process of being a writer for WWE.
Yeah.
And when we started the show, we were like, I don't want Vince McMahon to Google my name.
Exactly.
And then have this thing be like, Vince McMahon's out of touch. He doesn't know what he's talking about, while I have an active application to be a writer.
It's like why people have fake Facebook names now to hide themselves.
Right.
You wanted to hide that identity.
And then people started listening to the show, and here we are 4 years later.
Hey, it all grows. I think what's really interesting to me is, a lot of times on the show we talk to people who are either, halfway through or have just been doing it for a few years. I mean, you got a legit LLC, man.
Yeah.
You legit. I don't, you got, are you on the stock exchange? Can I invest?
Please invest. We are looking for any and all donations. Subscribe to our Patreon.
Listen, DIY, we need donations. We're poor.
Yeah, our cards are going to use donations too.
But yeah, I mean, I think, so doing a wrestling podcast,
Yes.
I mean, I think, honestly, when I talk about podcasts, I feel like wrestling is a huge market nowadays. So New Age Insiders, why don't you tell my viewers why your wrestling podcast is different than like maybe others?
So there's a lot of wrestling podcasts out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are very, very negative. They just tend to be negative. They shit on the product and they just talk about things that they don't like. And so our approach has always been to give the fans a voice. Ultimately, where we started, my co-host and I, we started, was we're not experts. We're just people that have watched this growing up, and we just enjoy it, and there's stuff to enjoy. So let's talk about the stuff we enjoy and then not focus on the stuff that's bad. And let's give people a platform to find like-minded people, because wrestling Twitter can be the worst place on the internet, and that's we try to kind of be like a nice oasis in that terrible hate desert.
That's great, because I mean, I think there's a big change in sort of what people are looking for in content. They are looking for, you could feed into people's negativity and their hatred for things and try to like hop on the hate train and find whatever's niche for that week's who do we hate this week. Or you could try to produce something that's actually like quality and a little heartwarming.
And the other part too is that, the nature of wrestling fans in general, like there are a lot of normal people that enjoy wrestling, but there are a lot of people that either their friends don't watch wrestling, or they don't have any friends that watch wrestling, or they don't have any friends at all. And and we've given them this place to be like, no, you have friends. Yeah, they are online, but you have friends. We do a thing every year. We go out to WrestleMania.
Oh, wow.
And so we call it NAI Mania.
Yeah.
And we have people from all over the country, and it's gotten to the point where people that have only met online come to whatever city WrestleMania is in, and they're getting hotel rooms together because people tell us all the time, oh, I wouldn't have made the trip to New Orleans, Orlando, Dallas, San Francisco if it wasn't for you guys, because I knew that when I got there I'd have some people, this fan these friends that I've made online. We have watch-alongs because we've evolved past just strictly a podcast. Totally. And so we have these watch-alongs where last night somebody in our Patreon chat was like, hey, I want to watch Mulan. And the entire chat just turned into a live stream of consciousness about these people just watching Mulan.
So, and that's the beauty.
It's kind of fun to kind of watch how this, you start a community and and it's all kind of based on this one show. Yeah. But then it evolves into something more.
Oh, exactly. And I think that's what's beautiful about just trying. I think that's beautiful you say that, because I think that's really important when creating a creative venture in general. If you're trying to create this sort of infrastructure that people can sort of follow along with, if you don't make it feel like it's theirs as well, they're not going to hang around that long. One of the shows I love that I get a whole bunch of inspiration from is the Chris Gethard show, and they actually just announced this week that they're not coming back ever again, and it makes me very, very sad, and I'm filled with sadness. But one of the big things they say in the finale of their show was, go start your own, go do your own. And in the community there, I see so many people in that community doing things, creating things. This is what we're doing here. And you talk about connecting people. It's the best thing when I see two bands that I booked play on the same stage together. It's just like, it's not, I don't need a thanks. I don't need anybody to let me know. Just watching it happen. It's like watching your kids, like you have two kids and they get along and they play together and then they help each other. You're like, I'm proud.
I always say that, when I kind of end up talking about like the actual like ins and outs of podcasting, I always say that I'm just an asshole that just screams into the void of the internet. It's a miracle that the void of the internet started screaming back, and it's terrifying. But that's the thing is you can do that. The show started now, so now our show is live on NewAgeInsiders.com every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. You're on Twitch TV, we're on Periscope, YouTube, we're on everything. And so, but the show started. It was me and my co-host, and I had a little H1 recorder that I had plugged in, and we had two mics. And the first episode, it's on. You can go to our YouTube page, just New Age Insiders, and it's on YouTube. And it's in mono. There's no visuals. Solid. It's just a solid picture. We don't have an intro. We don't have an outro. See, that's beautiful. Now, and that's the thing that I say all the time is like, if you want to start, just start. Because episode 1 isn't what episode 5 is going to look like, and episode 5 isn't what 10 is going to look like. And now we're on we just recorded last week. The next one will be live this Wednesday, but episode 215 of the main show. And that's consecutive. And that's probably the biggest thing that I would say to anybody that wants to start a podcast is just start. Be consistent. And because, I always used to love the 1960s Batman. And at the end of that, it was, where do you find this? Same bat time, same bat channel. And that's exactly how we operate, where you know when and where to find us, and we're going to be there every time. And as long as you do that, you'll find an audience.
No, you're definitely right with that. And I think, like you're saying, just start it. I think too many people are worried about perfection. Too many people are worried about making mistakes in front of people. It's like, the same with this show. If you see our first episode, we had this weird setup. We were kind of like in a circle, and like cameras moved around, and we actually had an audience show up. So, nice. A lot of things change over time. But that's the whole thing. You got to be willing to fall before you can walk.
Yeah, because if you sit there and say it's never going to be good enough, it's never going to be good enough. Because if we waited to get to the production quality that we're at now, at episode 1, we never would have gotten there.
No. I mean, it's just ridiculous to try to sit there and think you can start perfectly. You know what I mean? Just go try it. Go try it, internet. Do it. Just fucking do it. Now, I want to ask you one more question before we go to another video. I was wondering, obviously the fan interaction is awesome, but what is maybe your favorite thing about podcasting?
My favorite thing about podcasting has to be just being able to sit there, escape, and just be creative for an hour.
Yeah.
We have the main show, the main wrestling show, which is New Age Insiders Wrestling. But then we have a bunch of other shows that are under the whole umbrella.
Totally.
I do a late night talk show style podcast, a late night Liam.
Yep.
And so I try to get guests on from all different walks of life and stuff like that. Then we have another show. It's called Be Heard, where our fans just ask us random questions and we answer it. And
Nice.
And then I have that movie show where one of the hosts, his name is Mike Wendt. He is on Wicked Bites on Nessun.
Yeah.
And so we sit and we cover movies.
Nice.
And we talk about movies and stuff like that. And there's, and then I oversee several other shows that we just kind of have. It's one called For the Pops, which is two dads that talk about pop culture.
Awesome.
It's very interesting.
That's awesome.
Let the Chaos Begin, which is another pro wrestling podcast that is basically an owner of a local independent promotion that ran for like 15 years.
Wow.
He just recently sold it, so now he's kind of like talking about the history of it, which is really interesting. And then we have just a bunch of other shows in and out, kind of
that's
all
awesome.
over the place.
And so sort of that variety and allowing yourself. I think what's cool about podcasting, I mean, the same with this show is like, a lot of times talk shows, just mainstream TV, they're not trying to dig into things. They're not trying to really explain an idea. You can watch documentaries, you can watch like long form news segments. But what you ultimately miss out on is that sort of wider perspective, or even that niche, like I was talking with Ellie, where it's like that niche sort of perspective you can gain through podcasting. I mean, especially with wrestling. I'm sure you could, like, I think what the strength is in doing this sort of content is that you maybe hit a note with someone and like reveal something to them.
Right. We always try, especially with the wrestling stuff, like I said, we try to be more positive at things. So we don't sit there and try, there's a term called fantasy booking.
Yeah.
People sit there and write the story that they want in their head, and then when WWE or whatever wrestling promotion doesn't do it, they get mad.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, don't get mad at them for something that you created in your head.
Yeah.
Look at the story this way, or realize that the story's not done.
Yeah.
And just kind of go along for the ride. So, just trying to kind of hit that. It is a very niche market, although it's a very saturated market.
Yeah.
They're also, it's a very weird.
Can I ask you one
place.
question though? This is just for me.
Yeah.
Like I have this weird, like, why does the Juggalo fan base and the wrestling fan base sort of like Venn diagram?
Do you know? I have no idea. I think it comes from the.
Is it the backyard wrestling game? Was it really
well,
just that?
it was part of that. So the ICP, they were in WWF in the 90s.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they were a part of a faction called the Oddities, and it was very, very short-lived.
Yeah.
And so then they moved over to WCW.
Yeah.
So they're wrestling fans.
Okay.
And so I think that their fandom kind of started it.
Okay.
And so that's why there's that crossover. Now they have Juggalo Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Which is a real promotion with a real belt, and I know people, like friends of mine, have wrestled for them.
Whoop whoop, dude.
It's weird. It's a weird thing. I can't explain it, but I love the face paint.
I know. I love the face paint. Wear it so you can avoid being caught by like facial recognition software.
Yeah.
And then that's the future we will all live in, where we're all the rebels are juggalos who love wrestling. So yeah, Fago, here. Juggalos. We're doing an episode about juggalos next week on the show. Just
Very
kidding.
fun.
No, that would be fun.
That would be fun.
It would be pretty chaotic. It would be pretty chaotic.
Tables would get broken.
Juggalos are honestly pretty DIY. I'm not gonna lie.
They
There's
are.
a lot of similarities between the Juggalo scene and the DIY scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because you definitely gotta like make your own face paint.
You gotta have your own. You gotta have your
My
own.
shit, for
And then you probably don't. You just doing your thing.
Yeah. Right.
Doing your thing. Juggling it up.
Yeah. Your house probably isn't a very stable situation.
Hey, I mean, I'm not trying to generalize. There could be stable. There could be business juggalos.
Right. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
Oscar, do you think there are business juggalos?
No.
No, Oscar is not saying that. Whatever, if there's any juggalos watching right now, I'm sorry about that. Eddie, we're going to have a lot more conversation with you in a little bit. On that note, I'm going to segue into the next video. We got a music video coming up right now. This is an old one. It's called Panama Papers. So why don't you guys all tune in? This is a music video. And when we come back, we got much more TV show. So Oscar, play some songs! Yeah, baby, yeah, baby. Ripping it up. 3, oh!
in silence, a puddle at my feet. I sway into the seconds, eyes catching in the gleam. The summer grows inside us, blossoms in between. If only for a moment, the mellow's burning slow. Your place is what you make it. The summer's in your soul. If only for a moment, the mellow's burning in your mind. Your place is what you make it. The summer's hard to find. We sail into the darkness slowly, the minutes floating by, reflecting on the warmth around us. The evening's getting high. We settle on the night that found us. The heat is magnified, soaking up the condensation and smooth the undefined. If only for a moment, the mellow's burning slow. Your place is what you make it. The summer's in your soul. If only for a moment, the mellow's burning in your mind. Your place is what you make it. The summer's hard to find. If only for a moment. If only for a
Are we back? Which camera? Are we back? 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 Hey, cut to me. Hey, everybody, welcome back to DIY the show. You're definitely on the ball with that one. As always, I'm Andrew Lowry, your host. If you're still watching on the live stream, thank you so much. Let us know in the comments below. We are having problems with the music videos. They don't play on the live stream. You don't hear the audio because the audio is controlled somewhere else. I can't explain it, but you'll see it in the full episode. Either way, I'm so happy to have everyone back here. I got my guests, Eddie and Ellie, here on the stage. I have that alliteration for a reason. I really like that this all worked out. Double letters, an IE and an E in the front. I'm going to say you guys are related. We're just going to make that up today.
That's fine.
Okay?
We look similar.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you.
A bunch of redheads
I don't
on
have
the
my
stage.
beard today,
You
but-
do.
Yeah.
I have a spare, actually. We have a bag of wigs
okay.
here on the
Yeah.
show.
Next time.
But either way, we're here to talk about podcasts, not bags of wigs. So I want to get into a little bit.
Are you sure? Because I have everything behind the blue screen over there.
Yes, all the bags of wigs.
I got the Rasta wig.
Oh,
the
here,
Beatles
throw a wig
wig.
out. We got a wig? Where's the wig? Oh, look, here, we got a wig. Is it keyed out? Is this really weird looking because we use a green screen? Whatever, it's gone now. That was a fun bit. So we're talking about podcasting. We're here hanging out. So both of you have done shows for a long time now. I think one of the things people don't realize is how long it actually takes to do this stuff. So whoever wants to answer first, how long does it actually take you to make a podcast?
Sure. Well, for me, it's probably, I say, about 8 hours an episode. That's like with guest booking, outline, actually recording, and then I do all of our editing.
Yeah.
And then, like, I guess, like, putting it up. And if you want to add marketing, that will be, like,
I mean, marketing is like a
lot.
consistent sort
that's
of
too much.
job you're always doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
How about
that
for
seems-
you?
From record to stop recording, anyway, from an hour and a half to 3 hours.
Yeah.
But that just comes with, it's so turnkey at this point.
Yeah.
But the real answer has to be all three of us. There's three of us that all own New Age Insiders Entertainment, and we we probably put in somewhere close to 8 to 10 hours a day.
Oh, geez.
Just in terms of, we're always working on something. We're always trying to, make something better for the show, whether it's book a guest or, talk to a sponsor or, talk to fans to see what the show layout's going to be. We're constantly talking to each other, planning different videos and stuff like that. So basically 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then, but the actual episodes, we go live to tape. We go live to tape, so we just hit record because the show's live.
Yeah.
The show, all of the shows
you
that we
said
do.
you stream it, so yeah.
We stream live on YouTube, Twitch. It's Twitch, New Age Insider, twitch.tv/New Age Insiders TV, and then we have a Facebook channel, and it goes up there after the fact. But just because that's the biggest bandwidth hog, which is a mess. But so that's kind of.
We have a lot of problems. I mean, we did YouTube streams for a while, and then we had one episode where chatbots somehow got in, and there was 100% free sex.us was one of the usernames.
Very fun.
That's a real person. I mean, streaming and simulcasting, and it sounds like, for the most part, podcasting, it's better be your passion, because it ends up being like a part-time job on top of whatever else you got. So the timing is definitely a hard part. What else would you both say is maybe a hard part of doing a podcast?
Well, we would go, probably for us, it's trying to, we're so reliant on a specific product, right? Like, we are covering WWE. Now, while Ring of Honor and New Japan and everything that's going on with All In is stuff that exists, and there are other things, when WWE isn't good, which right now we're in one of those periods where it's just not good, there's not a lot of buzz around it, we have to find a way to engage our audience in a way that they're going to still connect to the product because we're covering something that they might not be excited about right now.
So that's interesting, because like you were saying, it's you're kind of having to be creative with the content. You're kind of having to search for that story, almost like investigate what's going on and connect to them. So I feel like that's definitely hard to stay on the pulse. Ellie, how about you?
I would say one of the harder parts is we've started to try to get guests more often, and we've had some really cool guests, like the founder of Her, which is a lesbian dating app. It's basically like gay Tinder or lesbian Tinder. So we had her on, which was amazing, but we also talk about a lot of movies, so we're really trying to push to get some bigger actors and all that kind of stuff. So it's more, I think, figuring out how to get in touch with them and how to get them to actually come on. That's been more difficult, but also exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, booking is such a weird thing. You know what I mean? Asking, especially nowadays. I wanted to start off the show talking about honor. I didn't go into my rant this week, but I wanted to talk about your word. And I think when you're doing it yourself, all you have is your word, because we're working off a favor-based economy. You know what I mean? I'll help you with this show if you help me with this show down the line, and blah, 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 blah. And so everybody's trying to help each other out, and it is supportive, but at the end of the day, if you're not a person for your word, nobody's going to come to you again. And I've had that happen with guests before, and it gets tough. So, I mean, good luck, Ellie.
Thank you.
It gets harder.
I'm working on it.
The bigger the guests, the harder they are to book. And the more,
pain in the ass.
I mean, sometimes, whatever. We've had, this show... this show is for people who aren't famous. You know what I mean? That's what it's. I mean, you guys have your fame. I'm not trying to downplay it, but that's what it's about.
But let's be real. I yell at the internet about grown men solving their problems with violence. Okay.
Listen, I yell the Kermit speech in the first Muppet movie pretty much on an episode basis for this. So it's all cyclical. So
moving right along.
Moving right along.
I love that song.
Okay, sorry. So I want to ask this one, because I sometimes deal with this. Is dead air. Sometimes there's an awkward moment. You go live to tape. Ellie, you can edit those out.
Yeah.
But what do you sort of find is sort of at fault for the dead air? Do you think it's sort of just gonna happen?
I would say the best way to try to avoid dead air is we outline our episodes.
Okay.
We just have bullet points, but it's we know where we're going.
Totally.
We're not just and we ramble in between.
Yeah.
But knowing what you want to talk about before you get into the podcast is very helpful to not have dead air.
Yeah.
And then I don't have to edit it out. But we can. Yeah.
I wish we did more. I mean, we make a script, but I don't really follow it. I don't, whatever.
Ditto.
Carbia. But Eddie, how about you?
So we've been doing this for so long that we just kind of have a rhythm for the show. Between the three of us, we're kind of able to jump in and kind of, if somebody loses something or, we just have that dead air, we don't really find it because we know what we're talking about. Like, we have a show outline of the things we want to talk about. And then I come from an improv background.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I've worked at Improv Asylum for a very long time here in Boston.
Nice.
And so went through that, performed there. So basically, that's one of the things they teach you is just talk. Just go. Yeah. Just go, ramble, talk. So it kind of eliminates that dead air.
Yeah, I think that, for me, I always end up rambling. I'm a famous rambler. But
rambling man,
I am a rambling man, I have been told, doing the best I can. But so I'll go real far off like I'm doing right now with this, but it's the key. If you're gonna ramble, you always need to wander back. Like a good cow, I'll wander out into the pasture, but I'll always come back because I know where that feed is. I know where I'm a cow. That's my analogy.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that we found that out today.
Thank you.
It's a real self-discovery moment here.
That DIY, the show of information. That's what we are. So I think for a lot of people out there, I think the biggest intimidation when making a podcast is finding that audience. Now, obviously, interacting with them is a great thing. What would you guys say is some great ways to improve your audience numbers or sort of connect with people?
The first thing that I would always say is don't worry about it. I know that sounds crazy, but a person that I put a lot of stock into and somebody that has kind of mentored me in how to build an entertainment brand, his name is Norm Lavalette. He's the owner of Improv Asylum and Laugh Boston here in Boston. He's built 2 very, very, very successful comedy clubs, and one of the things that he always told me was when they first started that if there was one person in the audience, do the show for that one person. And don't worry about the 199 that didn't show up. Entertain the one person, because that person is going to have, if you give them the best experience of their life, they're going to come back and they're going to bring a friend. And now you have 2 people. And it might be slow, it might be painful, but eventually you get there. We did the first show not thinking anybody would listen, and do your first show knowing nobody will listen. But don't be discouraged by that, because when you do, personally, our show now, we're at 215, and it was downloaded on 6 continents. So we're doing, you know what I mean?
You got to get Antarctica, bro.
I am trying so hard.
Global warming, eventually the audience will go there.
So we have somebody that knows a scientist that is going to Antarctica within the next couple of months, and we have been harassing this person.
That motherfucker better download that shit.
I don't care.
Need the rings.
I don't care if you listen. I don't care if you listen.
Just download
I need you to download
so I can
it.
take that picture.
So you can take the picture on our little thing that says where it was downloaded.
That's that's amazing. And even Ellie was saying, you'd be surprised the connections you make. So it's really about legacy. I think that's what I try to say to people a lot of the time when they ask me about creating stuff is think about the legacy. Think not about how you perceive it on an instant basis, like episode to episode, but how large the piece looks together. Like how do you carry that theme throughout? You're talking about wrestling, you're talking about different lesbian experiences and things like that, and I think whether each experience could be different, each wrestling match could be different, but it's you as a host who's the theme. You are the common denominator. You are the thing that's there every single time, and so I think that really is what builds an audience. Ellie, how about for you?
Yeah, I feel like we talked about this on the break. It's also about the audience members that you do have, building a community for them.
Yes.
And focusing on that, because you're right, like, they are the people who are going to tell someone else.
Yes.
Like, so, and if you are like, oh, we only have 20 people listening and don't pay attention to them, like, then they're not going to keep listening.
Exactly.
So you could get 100 more people, but like you're not going to keep them.
Yes.
So I think it is really important to focus on the people who are listening and who have been there, and like that's what's going to grow your audience for sure.
I think that's great. So we're basically at the end of the conversation here. I've had a great time talking with both of you. I always like to leave my viewers with one last piece of advice. So real quick, 1-2 sentences. Someone starting out in podcasting, what piece of advice would you give them?
I completely agree that just start.
Just start?
Like, with everything. And keep doing it because like it is crazy. Like you'll see the first episode, no one will listen, which is fine. And then it's like just be consistent because there are so many people who just aren't that. Like it's crazy. There are so many people who just start something and then never keep going. And just keep going is gonna put you in a completely different
People always
category.
come up to me and they're like, "It's so cool you do your show. It's so great. I don't understand how you could do something like that." I'm like, dude, I mean, anybody can do anything. You know, it's the fucking internet. I don't care if it's just you talking into a web camera, man. I mean, that's something. So that's great. So Eddie, how about you?
Because that's the right answer, I'm going to say something different.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to do the thing.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to look stupid.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
In short,
No, Carbia, what you saying?
in short, self-motivation and courage, respectively.
Exactly.
Right. Because if you just aren't afraid to do the thing and just it's like jumping in a pool. It's gonna take you a hell of a lot longer to dip your toe in, to then get your feet in, to then get up to your knees, to then get up to your waist, to then finally go in. If you just jump in, you're gonna get comfortable right away. And don't be afraid to look stupid. We all look stupid.
Always. I mean, that's what this show's all about is the technology we work with here at the studio trying to make me look stupid on a repeated basis. Marvin, you're shrugging your shoulders?
I mean, I'm sorry. It happens.
It happens. Marvin says it happens. But I think that's great. Don't be afraid to look stupid because your mistakes are what makes people love you. I mean, if you're a perfect host all the time, like what? Who's interested in that? You know? I mean, what's his name? Seacrest. He's out. Peace out. I mean, there's other reasons he's out, but
I also like that you used his catchphrase.
Yeah, I did. Double burn, Seacrest. So people don't trust perfect people. I don't trust perfect people, and I don't fucking trust you.
Yeah.
Show me some flaws.
It's really good that Tom Brady's really good at football because otherwise he'd be a serial killer.
Don't even start. I will fucking go off about Tom Brady right now. I hate sports. Tom Brady. Fuck Tom Brady.
Same here.
Fuck The Rock. Fuck Tom Brady. Shots fired.
And fuck LeBron James.
And on that note, we're gonna go to a video. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Ellie. Go check out New Age Insiders, the Les Hangout. I'm sure you can find them on iTunes, all that jazz. Just use Google fucking search. It's easy to find anything you want on the internet now.
Yeah, for sure. And Yahoo.
But anyway, a good friend of the show, Chelsea, she was in Band Banana. She gave us her tips for how to start a successful podcast. She does a podcast herself called Dear Young Rocker. You can check that out online as well. So let's go to that video when we come back. Outer River's gonna close out the show. So DIY, the show that hates Tom Brady. Fuck him! Yeah!
And The Rock!
Hello. Hey DIWHY viewers. Thanks for having me today. I'm Chelsea Urson of local rock band Banana. Hungry all the time means the diet's working. We played on DIY a little while ago. I also have a podcast called Dear Young Rocker, and I'm here today to give you a few tips if you're getting started in podcasting or thinking about getting started in podcasting. So my show, just really quick, Dear Young Rocker is a memoir type show about how I was a little weird, socially anxious, every kind of anxious middle schooler, and then I kind of dealt with my issues by starting to play and listen to a lot of rock music, and that's how I learned to connect with other people. So it's that kind of story and getting in my first band and all that, and advice to my young self, like stuff I wish she had known. And on that note, I would love to tell myself a few months ago, before I started podcasting, a few things. So if you're in that space, here's some tips for you. So I'll give you three main ones. So number one, try not to work alone. There's a lot of stuff to do, and even if you have the skills in every area, it's just so much to do. It's so many hours a week that if you end up doing everything alone like me, you're gonna probably get overwhelmed pretty quickly. So you need to be able to record, edit, and mix audio. You need to create like social media / marketing campaign. You need to learn, you have to build a website to host your podcast, and learn about RSS feeds and analytics and get in the iTunes store and all that stuff. and it sounds hard. It's really not hard. Like you can find, I just found like YouTube tutorials and Udemy classes for like $10 that taught me how to do all of these things, but it just took so many more hours than I had anticipated, and I have no one to like keep me accountable. So a lot of people work with a co-host, or maybe you just have someone who's gonna do like social media posts for you, or someone just to be like, hey, send it to me by this week so I can create some artwork for it, or whatever it is. I had to create a logo. Okay, so I had to learn a lot of stuff by myself. So I wish I had started with someone else, honestly, but at this point it's like my beast. So that's one. And two, kind of on that same note, since it's just gonna be a lot more hours than you think, like every episode is gonna be like 3 times longer to produce than you think, I would say make episodes, and this is what people who are more expert than me do. You make a few episodes before you put out your first episode. Because let's say you're like, oh, I want to make a show once a month or once a week. And you make your first episode and you're like, okay, it's my first episode. It took a long time, but now that I know what I'm doing, I'll get one out every single week. So you tell your friends that, you post your first episode, and then months go by inevitably before you post your next one because you realize all this other stuff you want to do. And then you lose that momentum. So even if you're not trying to like make money off this, which you're doing the wrong thing if you're trying to make money off of this, you have to be very self-motivated. Even if you're just doing it for fun, I would say make a few episodes just to see how long each one takes. And have those back up, so like when life inevitably comes in and slows you down, you can like have those back up and you can put them there while you're working on the next episode, because it's gonna like keep building on itself, this snowball of time. And so those are kind of like 3 tips, I guess, in one. Don't work alone if you can help it. Ask for help, please. Make content before you put it out, and like realize it's going to be a lot more time than you think it is, but you can do it. You just have to like Google things for hours and hours and hours and ask for help. And there's a wonderful podcasting community in Boston. If you check out the Podcast Garage in Alston on Western Ave, I'm there like constantly, and that's where I record, and that's where I make podcasting connections and take classes and network, and you should check that out. So yeah, and please check out my show, DearYoungRocker.com. It's available on iTunes, Google Play, and it's on Spotify too. So thank you very much.
It's time for DIY. Hey everybody, welcome back to DIY the show. I want to thank you all for watching the show today. I want to thank my guests Eddie and Ellie for coming in and talking about podcasting with us. I hope you learned how to start your own podcast and go out and make your own. If you do make a podcast, come back at me and I'll share it out, because that's what we do here. We share things. Whoa! And we just went into space and now we're back. So either way, I want you to go check out New Age Insiders, go like all their things. Les Hangout, go like all their things. And the third thing I want you to like is Otter River, right behind me. They're about to perform live for us. So let's hear it loud and clear for Otter River in the studio, everybody!
Hello. Hello. This song is called 3-Day Weekend, and it doesn't have a meaning, so make one up if you'd like. I'm Mike. That's Ralph. You can find us where all good internet is. Without further ado, let us begin. 1, 2, 3. Oh, the queen came. Suddenly she came to say, it's time for me to pay my debt. The reason I'm all that she has left, but the several blood and green face.
the barely visible man get out here. Let's hear it again for Otter River, everybody in the studio. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Get out of the camera frame, barely.
You're the man.
Go run a camera.
Get your ass out of here.
Oh my God, it's over. All right, thank you again so much for performing. We can find you online over. You tell me how to find you on the internet.
Okay. We're on Facebook, okay? We're on Instagram. I used to have a Twitter, and that's pretty much it. We have a Bandcamp account. We're about to put out some demos that I record, and then I teach the guys the songs. Sometimes we step into a studio. The release of In That Vein is coming out pretty soon.
Cool.
No dates, but keep an eye out for us, and we'll make you happy.
Check them out online. Find much more of them on our Facebook page and all that stuff. But I want to thank you all for tuning into DIY the Show. It's been a great episode. Oscar, you want to give us the theme song? All right, we're waiting for it. We're always waiting for it. Yeah, get us some drums in there. DIY. Everybody want to come up? Come on up. Time for DIY. All right, Eddie, Ellie, thank you so much for coming in. How we doing? Oh yeah, it's time for DIY. Oh, we got any shout-outs? Yeah, we got any shout-outs? Shout-outs to my mom. Shout-out to your mom in the control room. Eddie, any shout-outs? No shout-outs. Hey, green dude, your shout-outs. No shout-outs. Garbia, you got a shout-out.
Retro, Scare Up, Pixel Dukes Radio, Geek Me Radio, I love
Oscar.
That podcast, it was Michael Swain, Small Beans podcast.
Nice. How about other drums? Any shout-outs?
I really like my mom.
Shout out to the moms as always. It's time for DIY. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about theater and stuff. So see you in a couple weeks. Bye. Peace out.